Marketer of the day, number 429. Lead the way to better perspective, success, and authenticity to overcome any obstacle with keynote speaker Robb Holman. Hey everyone, and thanks for listening. We're talking right now with a guy who used to be a professional basketball player, and his name is Robb Holman. And Robb is an internationally recognized leadership expert, an executive coach, a keynote speaker, and author who has a heart for authentic relationships and a true talent for equipping people with the skills and the knowledge necessary for their success. With passion and exuberance, Robb's dynamic teaching style has successfully led countless business owners, executives, and leaders through his exclusive and proprietary method of inside-out leadership coaching. In helping his clients learn how to connect with their unique life purpose, they are finding success in a way they never expected from the inside out. And as a lifelong serial entrepreneur, Robb has founded numerous highly influential organizations, both for-profit as well as nonprofit, and his current endeavor is as a founder and CEO of Holman International, which is a global leadership consultancy revolutionizing even the way business leaders operate. So Mr. Robb, glad to be talking to you right now.
Yay, Robert! I am thrilled to be with you, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you better. And I have a lot of things on my heart to share. So I'm excited.
Awesome. I'm excited too. Can't wait to jump in. And, whenever I see this kind of subject, like this leadership stuff or this business stuff, to be honest, I kind of glaze over a little bit. And I know that I shouldn't, because I think that I started as just a computer programmer, and a lot of people out there, they started as like some kind of like worker, right? Like one kind of thing. Yeah. And I think that as things kind of just seem too hard, like sometimes things seem harder than they need to be. And we kind of have to grow our own business and sometimes move out of our comfort zone and be a better communicator and all these different things. So do you see this kind of problem of people saying like, well, I know that I need to be better, but then when I see all this like leadership business stuff, I'm just kind of like, what am I even supposed to do here?
Yes, and I love to talk to individuals like that, and I'm surrounded with them all over the place, all over the world. And here's the key thing. A lot of times when we think about leadership, we think of those that we influence and those that we obviously have an opportunity to lead. But what I love to hone in on is personal leadership. When we actually can learn about ourselves, the good, the bad, the ugly, be authentic, be real, discover, rediscover things about ourselves, in a sense, go on a self-exploration. And in the midst of that, we can only learn things about ourselves, some of which we've known before, some of which we needed to learn about, so we can be better leaders of ourselves. Because I'm a huge advocate for, listen, the better we get to know ourselves, we lead out of that place. And so now we can lead with confidence. Now we practice what we preach. And I'm under the strong conviction, like if we truly know ourselves and we can effectively lead ourselves, then whether it's one other person we get a chance to lead outside of ourselves or a handful of people or a bunch of people, we're going to be that much more effective in doing so.
Well, that sounds great. So how the heck do we get to know ourselves? What's the first step in jumping in on this process?
Yeah, for me, it all goes back to foundations. There's different foundations that I think are just so important. Now, foundations, I think of this. I'm a highly visual person. So when I think of foundations, it's things beneath the surface. So if you look at like a house being built, foundation, there has to be good, firm foundation. So a house can actually be built up and withstand any storm that the world may toss at it or throw at it. So our lives are very similar. And foundation, what I've found, like I call them inside out leadership foundations. And a couple of really big ones are, foundation number one is it's all about perspective. I have found the most influential, impactful, dare I say, transformational leaders out there, people that really do an extraordinary job at leading themselves and others in their midst. They just have a perspective on themselves, on people, on their business or businesses and life. It doesn't matter what life throws at them. It could be a huge curveball in the middle of their day. It could be a season which is pretty trying and turbulent. But in the midst of that, they're looking for opportunity. They believe that, in the midst of this maybe chaotic time, season, curveball in the midst of their business, whatever the case may be, that in the midst of this, there is tremendous opportunity. I just have to find it. And so I think it's all about perspective. If we can go about our lives from I call it a higher perspective, not to float up and stay in the clouds, but anchored in purpose, anchored in meaningful and impactful and significant things in life. But out of this place, we start viewing, again, things, people, circumstances, out of a place of gratitude, out of a place of thankfulness. And I have found, man, when problems come and you have and live a life of gratitude and thankfulness with this higher perspective, this higher purpose, now this is the place in which to actually solve problems out of. And that's when we can be of even greater good to people all around us.
I like it. So it sounds like it's important to have this optimistic viewpoint of saying, like, it's really easy, it's really tempting and easy to find the one little thorn in the whole rose garden. But if we come across this chaos, obstacles, roadblocks, instead of just giving up at the first sign of trouble, we say, well, first of all, I on purpose brought myself into this situation, and instead of just giving up or being a downer, let me think my way out of it. And so what I'm hearing from you is, like, for example, if we say, well, if we're an entrepreneur and we're saying, well, I'm super busy, like there's all this crazy stuff going on, but then that's a good thing, right? Because I'm super busy. What's the alternative of not making money? The phone's not ringing, just sitting around twiddling my thumbs. So I guess, in other words, we're in this situation, but there's always a better way of looking at it. And the worst thing we can do is just give up or sit there. The better way is to say, let me find the path to get to where I want to go.
Couldn't agree more. And Robert, I'll say this. I run into so many people, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, you name it. And they'll say, Rob, the economy, certain seasons past, the economy's just rocked my business. I feel paralyzed. I can't really do much. And you start to see their confidence wane. You start to see it go down. You start to see this downward hill spiral of thinking. And I look into their eyes and I say, no. See, this is the place, where most people pack in the bags, but you're one to not pack in the bags. And, I go back, practically speaking, a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, small business leaders of any size of company, you go back to business plans. And business plans, we're supposed to identify our weaknesses. We're supposed to identify the challenges. But we're also, in the midst of them, what are the opportunities? And so it's all about perspective. If we can begin to lay a foundation in our life of being intentional and consistent with having a higher perspective, it makes all the difference. Not to mention, another important foundation is redefining success. See, a lot of times we let culture and the world define success for us. In America, for instance, right? I live about 25 miles outside of the city of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. And I know I don't live in the only area where this happens. I know I reach people all over the world and they say the same thing, that sadly we get caught up in the current of our culture, and it's not always positive. And what I mean by that is we can easily let our culture, let even business culture define success for us. By this age, I should have a six-figure income. By this age, I should be doing this, all the way down the line. When I want to say, not so fast. How would you personally define purpose? Or success. And success could mean a little different for you, Robert, than it's going to mean for me or the next person. At the end of the day, what are the things that matter most to you? And if, I love, and I view this as a very big area, foundational area, when we can start to go through a process of redefining success based on each person and the things that truly matter to them, then we don't get caught up in the current of our culture, or business culture for that matter, starting to define where we should be, when we should be there. We actually take the bull by the horns and say, this is how I view success. I'll give you a practical example. For me, I have viewed success throughout the course of the last good handful of years of positively influencing people that I get to brush shoulders with day in, day out. I've never purely defined success based on numbers, like financial numbers or the number of people I can reach, but the level of impact I can have on their lives. So looking at it and having that foundation laid in my life, see, now it goes back to perspective too. Now I have this perspective because I've redefined success, and now I allow that to be the filter in which I go about business, that I help people, I serve people, and I can ultimately impact people through.
I love it. So it sounds like to me like it's The second foundation here, the redefining success, helps us to avoid that trap of comparing ourselves to others or feeling
Yes.
like we're not good enough or that we need to keep up, and saying like, oh, if that person's younger than me and they've achieved more than me, that sounds like a really easy way to invite a lot of the resentment in, or chasing the numbers seems like an easy way also to kind of like fool ourselves into thinking that we're on the right track, but really we're on the opposite track. Because like I knew a friend once who decided to start setting monthly income goals for his business. He said, okay, this month I want to make 30 grand. This month I want to make 70 grand. And then he ended up selling websites that were making money month after month in order to hit the target. And it's like, okay, great. Well, you were chasing this number and you hit your number once, but then you sort of killed the goose that laid the golden eggs because you ended
That's
up
right.
pursuing just this silly thing. Like if you think like a number is just a silly thing, but it's easy to get off track and by losing what success is for us.
Could not agree more. And you take me into foundation number 3. And foundation 3 is the authentic you. And I love what you brought up, Robert, because you said, based on redefining success, there's no need to compare yourself with other people. And I find that so many individuals do that. But if we go on a self-exploration process to understand who we truly are, and we start to actually get encouraged in that place, that you, that me, that other people on this planet have seeds of greatness on the inside of them, that there's no one that could ever serve people in the way that you serve them, love on people in the way that you do, solve problems the way that you do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you begin to discover that about yourself, have a level of awareness and embrace that, then there's no need to say, I call it the if I syndrome. If I just had the money like Bob, if I just had the person I like Susan, if I. And I'll tell you, it's exhausting going down the comparison route. It just is. If we try to become someone who we were never meant to be, it leads us down a road of, what, if I, and it's draining. And there's unhealthy striving attached to that. I'd rather channel that energy, go on a self-exploration process to find the seeds of greatness that are already in the inside of me. So above surface, things can just break above surface and become a well-watered garden that has this amazing aroma, that all these different colors and all these different textures. I feel like out of that place, the greatest impact and the greatest influence on earth can come about. And so the authentic you is a huge foundation as well in the midst of that. But I'll say this, is the fourth and final foundation is something that gets in the midst of all this. It's all about perspective and everything we've talked about. It's the head trash. It's what we tell ourselves without even realizing it. I think that mindset is such an invaluable thing to have. See, there's an MP3 recording going on in every person's mind throughout the course of the day. There just is. But what is the MP3? What song is on? Is it a song that's telling you you're never going to amount to anything? The economy's struggling, so I guess I'm going to struggle. My business, I jumped out of the gate and it started off really well, but now it's down in the dumps because I'm not getting the amount of business, and finances a part of it. Which route are we going down? So I call it stinking thinking. There's so much stinking thinking. So if we can truly understand who we are, why we exist on the planet, have a higher perspective, redefine success, and embrace who we were truly created to be. Now these things can be the MP3 playing in the background of the forefront of our mind day in and day out, which will be positive in nature and can really anchor us actually in whatever we put our hands and feet to day in and day out, whether you're, again, a solopreneur and you're doing it by yourself and you're wearing multiple hats, or you have a growing team and you're looking to implement a strategy and a plan that's in place. And so really, really important to have these foundations laid in our life so that things can begin to break above surface and some powerful things can begin to come about.
I love it. So what I'm kind of hearing from everything that you're saying here is if we leave things up to chance, if we leave things to just work themselves out without a plan, without putting these right tools in place, then we're just gonna let all the crap in. We're gonna let the negative self-talk in. If we don't have the perspective, if we don't have our goals right, if we're not authentic to ourselves, we let this head trash in. It kind of makes me think of like, well, you have a car and that car requires gasoline. It requires probably a specific type of gasoline. If you pour in milk or juice, the car's not going to run. It'll probably trash the car. And then even if you put in the wrong kind of gas, you put in diesel when you're not supposed to, even though it's a little
Yeah.
bit off, then you're still totally screwed. So really important for us to know some of these tools, know what to do in order to get to what we want. And you mentioned a few times here that you've had a handle on this stuff for, you say, a handful of years. So, I mean, what brought you to this? Did you always have things figured out, or did things get really bad and you had to make a change?
Yeah, I found in my life, and I'm sure most people can agree with this in their own personal lives. For me, at age 21, now I'm 42 now, so at age 21, this is half my life ago. I was 21, entering into my senior year of college. I went to a small private school right outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the States, and things were going pretty well. But if I was honest with you, Robert, leading up to this, what I'm about to share with you, leading up to that time, purpose for me, and the reason for my existence was winning the next basketball game, was going out and hanging out with the guys and going drinking. Just, that was like happy-go-lucky Rob, and that's purpose and that's meaning for me. However, things started to change quite radically for me. I go into my senior year of college, which is arguably supposed to be the best year of your life, and I have a mass in my abdomen area that was extremely painful. And so I'm a college basketball player. I'm captain of an NCAA tournament team. And we're really, we're put on the national map. Everything's going great leading up to my senior year. But the summer before my senior year, age 21, I come down with this mass. Well, I go to the college campus, probably late August, to get a college basketball physical, as I normally grown accustomed to doing for the previous 3 years. Doctor checks me out and says, "You've got to go and get a number of tests done right away." And I knew by the expression on his face, doctors are supposed to play pretty cool. And I knew by the expression on his face, it could be quite serious. And to fast forward the story, my condition was undiagnosed for nearly a month and a half. I got CAT scans, MRIs, ultrasounds. I mean, if there was a test, I got it, and I probably got it a number of times. And the doctors, multiple doctors, were not ruling out cancer. The mass was so abnormal, so unusual, they didn't have a place to put it. So there was an undiagnosis attached with it. Until I went into an ultrasound specialist at UPenn Hospital, one of the best hospitals in the U.S., world-renowned hospital, and I'd never seen this doctor. And all my tests are, up on the screen. They were, brought in from all over the place. And what I'm about to share with you rocked my world, and it's going to make perfect sense of like, have I always have this optimistic viewpoint on life or not? It's going to make a whole lot of sense coming out of this story. So the doctor checks me out, and he says, "Rob, what I'm about to tell you, I don't have words to even explain what I'm about to say." And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "You don't have anything anymore. And I'm going to show you on the screen." And he now says to me a second time while I'm looking very intentionally at the screen, and I can clearly see on that screen there is no mass where a mass had been before with all my previous tests, ultrasounds, CAT scans, MRIs, etc. But now it's clear. And I tell you this, when he told me a second time, but now I'm looking intently at the screen and seeing it with my very own eyes, something in the depth of my being started to come alive. I started to, I told you what purpose was before this point. Now, I kid you not, it was a modern day miracle that to this day, doctors still don't even know what happened. But now I come out of a situation like this. I had a renewed view of life. I was asking questions I'd never asked before. Why am I alive? Who am I really? Is winning the next basketball game, is that it? Is going out and hanging out with the guys and having a few beers, is that it? Or could there be more to life than that? And I fast forward now 20 years after that miraculous thing in my life that was not only eye-opening, it was heart-stirring, and you talking about having a higher purpose come out of that place. Little did I know at that time, but certainly now I do know. I spend my day, every day, speaking on, coaching, training people up on, discovering their unique purpose and being driven according to it. Because I have tasted and I've seen this season of my life where I did not have and was not walking in my purpose. But then coming out of it, I certainly started that journey of doing just that. And so it's I always go back to that point. It's one of the biggest climaxes of my life. And because I have discovered my purpose, now I get to be on point with helping other people discover theirs. Because at the end of the day, Robert, I'm a firm believer, everything always comes back to purpose. Who are you will help you define why you are here and why your business ultimately exists.
That's super great. And you always hear about stuff like that where someone has like a really traumatic event that took them years to recover from, or a near-death experience that blows the lid off the reality. And so that's good for you that it didn't take something like super. I mean, it was something life-threatening, but it wasn't like,
Yeah.
like you didn't have to like get in a car accident or fall off a mountain or like lose your legs or something
Right.
to hit that to rock bottom, or at least re-examine things and see that a change needed to be made. So I mean that's a really cool story, and thanks for sharing that. And so everyone needs this perspective, redefining success, the authentic you, and then clear out the head trash. And we've mentioned this inside out leadership coaching. So can you kind of enlighten us on what you have going on? Is there like a book, a program, anything that you want to tell us as far as like your offers, your website, stuff like that?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, so I recently, I've been teaching on my inside out leadership philosophy for nearly 20 years. And it just in the last couple of years, people have been like, do you have a book? Could you put something in a concise fashion? Rob, I know you've been speaking about this all over the world for years. I know you do a lot of training on it, but would you I want to get my hands on something that doesn't necessarily cost a lot of money. And so in the last couple of years, people were tugging. So I finally put the pen to paper, so to speak, and wrote my first book, which is called Lead the Way. And it's about my leadership philosophy, some of which I touched on in this conversation, which are the foundations of inside out leadership. But then the book also covers what I call core convictions of an inside out leader, and then the why behind your business. And yeah, it's exciting. I've never written a book before, so this is my first. The book website is leadthewaybook.com. And I'm just excited to be able to now in a very succinct way. And I wrote the book. I kind of TED talked the book instead of writing a really long book where I'm kind of reiterating the same points over and over again. I decided to be like, let's refine and really get down to it of what the core principles, the core convictions on my heart about inside out leadership. What are they? And let's get very practical about them. So I'm excited that the book is going to be out soon, and excited for people all over the place to learn about them. But yeah, day in and day out, I write a lot of content surrounding my inside out leadership. I do a lot of speaking, keynote speaking and training. And then through my company, Holman International, we do have a coaching arm as well, where I don't do as much coaching right now, but we do have a lead coach who leads people through that process. So it's just exciting to be able to have people in my life like you, Robert, and others that are also out there doing extraordinary work that can also help broaden the message. So.
Well, great stuff. Well, I think that it's an important message, and I think that we all, if we let these things go by the wayside, if we say, oh yeah, that leadership stuff, or getting my own brain in order, or being set on what I want, I can wait until next week or next month to do that. Well, the time's going to pass, and next thing you know, you're going to have more work in store for you to kind of backtrack and figure out where you need to go, as opposed to just getting things figured out now. And especially if you're listening to this episode right now, I think you know that something needs to change, or at the very least you can do better than what you're doing. So you should check out leadthewaybook.com to get that book, see what Rob's all about, and see it all in that concise, condensed down TED Talk format. And so as we're kind of winding down here, Mr. Robb, do you have a secret to having all this energy and all this optimism, or is it just a matter of kind of putting in the work every day?
Yeah, I love the question. For me, there's a couple things. I live a life of gratitude. Surprise, surprise, in light of this entire conversation. But I think because of the perspective that I have every day, and I'll leave everyone with this. Every day I wake up, we're bombarded with things, social media, who liked my page, returning voice messages, etc. But I wake up every day and I don't want to just let the world dictate or take me into this gravity pull of negativity, or it's not even all bad. A lot of it's good, but I'd rather take the bull by the horns. One of the ways that I do so, and this is maybe what the listeners can truly take away to end, some things on my heart, is wake up every day and give thanks. What are the things, as soon as you open your eyes up every morning, that you are grateful for? And be very intentional and very specific. I've committed my life to every day, and my wife and my kids, I have 3 kids. We all start our day. And some days it could be 5 or 10 minutes, and other days it turns into close to an hour, depending on what we're doing on any given day. We are committed to living a life of intentional gratitude. And when you do so, there's no telling how you can begin to view yourself and those around you. So
I love it. So give thanks, great advice, because if you think about it, we're so lucky to be alive right now, right this instant. We could have been born on some other planet where you didn't have the you were like just a dumb animal crawling around on some planet light years away. You could have been born centuries ago during the Black Plague. You could have been born in the rainforest in the jungle and like never seen a computer, never seen the internet in your life. So I mean, we're so lucky to be alive here and now, and to be able to have all this internet access and have these opportunities in front of us. So we can't blow it. We got to be grateful for what we have and what's led us up to this point, instead of being one of those people that just kind of wakes up and thinks about, how much their back hurts, or how much there's those lousy bills they have to pay. I mean, what's the point of wasting your existence like that? Why not make the best use of it, be positive, and do those things that you need to do to work on yourself and be the best self that you could and should be? So we'll see you over at leadthewaybook.com, and maybe even save this episode in your podcast player, so that on those days when you're kind of having the doubt or the negativity and wondering, why am I still going, maybe have this episode at the ready so that you can play that episode in the morning and kind of hear Robb's infectious energy and enthusiasm to get you pumped up for the day. And most importantly, make sure you go right now to leadthewaybook.com. Go there on your phone or your browser, or if you're driving, maybe pull the car over and jot that down real quick. leadthewaybook.com. We'll see you there. And thanks, Robb, for stopping by and sharing just this cool, all this like mix of stuff, the life lessons, the stories, the actionable advice, all that great stuff in one package. I appreciate you. So thanks for coming by.
Oh, Robert, it was a joy to be with you, and I look forward to continuing the conversation in one way, shape, or form. So thank you so much.
Check out the latest episodes of our podcast on the web at marketeroftheday.com. And subscribe to us on iTunes at marketeroftheday.com/iTunes, or search the phrase Robert Plank in your iTunes app to find us there.